Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for tuning in for another edition of Behind the Mic. Apologies, we're a few minutes late, but it'll be good. I'm glad you stuck with us because we've got a good one lined up here today. And as you can see, we have a full band in here. Welcome, Tom Cridland. Hi.
Hi, Pam. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming all the way from Britain. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here in Detroit, which is the home of so much great music that I grew up listening to. So, yeah, I'm still starstruck after going to visit Motown.
Oh, you went?
Yeah, I went to the museum, which I guess, if you're from Detroit, it's probably feels like old news. But for me, it was, so I was smiling all day after going there.
Love it, love it. So the first time you've been in Detroit then?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And even just seeing a sign saying 8 Mile as well.
Oh, yes, Eminem.
Yeah, and Bob Seger I saw live in LA earlier this year. We met somebody who'd been involved with Kid Rock the other day. Yeah, I mean, there's so much great music that's come out of Detroit. Aretha Franklin. I mean, the list is, endless. And I think people are very Detroit. People are very proud of Detroit.
We are, and
rightly so.
A music heritage here is amazing. It's just amazing, and it's just people don't realize you hear the big names as you just mentioned, many of those, but so much great stuff has come out of Detroit. It's just amazing. So that's cool that you got to visit our little Motown museum.
Yeah, it was really incredible and very inspiring. Just everything from obviously the music that I grew up like. The Temptations and the Four Tops and the Supremes and Smokey Robinson, Marvelettes and Martha Reeves. You could go on for ages. But it's also just Berry Gordy and what he did, starting Motown with just an $800 loan. And, I think within 5 years he'd made his... They were saying he'd made his first 20 million.
Yeah. We could all wish, right? Yeah,
yeah, I mean... And I just think that it was just so innovative what they were doing. And I've been to Abbey Road before in the UK, and that was already a very prestigious studio that was being used for TV quite a lot, and it's big, and the studios there are big, and it's more grand. And Motown was, it's a small building and it's a small studio, but I think it proves the fact that it doesn't matter whether it's a big place or a grand place or a big name studio.
Yeah.
It matters about the people and the talent and the endeavour and the effort that's being put in, the creativity. It all comes from the people. It doesn't come from the building or the name or the grandeur of a place. It's all about people at the end of the day, and that's what Motown was about. It was about the talent of those people who, were the artists, and then also people like Berry Gordy. And they had choreographers and all sorts.
Yeah, they had everything covered. They had it down. They knew what they were doing for sure. That's cool to hear that from someone who is new, has never been here in our lovely city of Detroit, and to share that. That's really cool to hear that from an outsider. I love when those.
Oh, I'm really keen to just find out more. I mean, I also feel a bit bad, that for just talking about Motown and sort of like probably the stuff that's always given credit when there's probably loads of young artists and newer artists here in Detroit that I haven't checked out because I'm, trying to promote my own career.
You would need about 2 to 3 years nonstop to hear all the amazing artists that we have around here. It's really cool. And all genres, which you're part, you love all different genres. You don't just stick to one thing.
No.
Which I was, just looking at some of your different, videos and everything. It's like, wow, you're all over the gamut. You love it, which is a true artist. You're really taking it all in, I can see.
Yeah, I really like genre hopping, which I guess it's not really what you're meant to do, because people need to have a sound that defines them, and hopefully I will find that as I grow. But to be honest with you, I've spent I only took up music with any level of seriousness when I was like 26, 27. So it was like finally being given permission to do something that I love. And, I love music, whether it's, soul or pop or, R&B or heavy rock or rap or whatever it is. So just being able to be involved in making it, recording stuff live, writing songs in different genres. It's like a kid in a candy store. And, eventually, hopefully I'll settle down and calm down and focus on making a bit less and a bit better and a bit more focused. But at the moment, I can't
No,
help
don't calm
myself.
down. Yeah, just go for it. Let loose and have some fun. It's interesting because you mentioned you've just been serious since that age, but you're not. That's only been a few years.
I've just turned 29.
Yes.
So I mean, really, what happened was I gave up booze 2 years ago. It's just been 2 years, and that's when I really decided.
Excuse me, 2 years and 3 days.
2 years and 3 days, exactly.
Kudos for
I
you.
didn't do anything to mark it, but it's Deb's. It's my girlfriend and manager, Deb's. It's her dad's birthday that day because the final straw was me disgracing myself at her dad's 60th. So I always get reminded now that it's his birthday, and so I just celebrated by wishing him a happy birthday and not making a drunk fool of myself at his dinner party.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, you can't help but read about it, and it's all over there. Because you were kind of a loose cannon, basically, for many years. Just as you mentioned, you're drinking and just binging.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was reading that, like one day you had 20 Stellas in one sitting or one day, it was like.
I didn't know they had Stella so much.
Or was it?
It was Stella.
Yeah.
It was
Okay.
Stella.
Yeah.
I mean,
And that's kind of
it
crazy.
was quite a cathartic process. For my first single, Falling Off the Rails, I decided to do this quite bizarre marketing campaign where I explained in 15 chapters various disgraceful things I'd done when I fell off the rails. And
that was quite
attracted a bit of
entertaining.
attention. And I found it fun. But the real truth of the matter is that it wasn't. Like, there are funny stories, and I suppose, like, in a way, I feel a bit bad for glorifying it in a sense by telling like 15 ridiculous funny anecdotes, because there is a side to it that wasn't as funny, Like,
Oh, absolutely.
And like, I put on 30 kilos just from booze alone in about 3 years or something, 4 years. I don't know what it was, and I wasn't very happy, and I was up late quite a lot, just getting really, really drunk all the time.
I wouldn't look at it as that. I would look at it as an inspiration for someone else to see what you've gone through and where you were, which was pretty low, in what your life, the way you were acting and binging, and it was like I said before, a loose cannon. It was just kind of crazy. I think your stories on your website that explain all those different things, I think can be inspiring to somebody.
Well, that's very kind of you to say so, Pam. I mean, that would be nice. I mean, I can't pretend that I'm only, I'm doing it to like promote my own music career. So I feel I never like to sort of say like I'm doing this to like inspire others. But if someone else can be inspired by it, then I'm very happy about that. And also, like, I never like to come across as somebody who says like drinking is bad or whatever, because it was just bad for me. There are plenty of people who can have a few pints a couple of times a week and they're absolutely fine. It's just, and I completely understand, like, people want to get drunk and they don't want the party to stop, and that's more what it mostly was for me. I just didn't really see why, if we were allowed to get really drunk and have a great time and stay up till 5 a.m. on Friday, and everybody was up for it on Friday or Saturday, I didn't see why people wouldn't be up for it on Sunday and Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and just all the time. And it's a little bit like music, I started writing songs at the start of this year, and most people would think, let's try and write 10 really good songs and record an album. But I couldn't really stop myself from writing 100. And, then there was the matter of recording that and demoing that. And, I've been very fortunate to have, been able to work with some amazing people this year who've made it possible.
Yeah, you've had some great connections, it seems like, that to help you out. So, and we're going to talk about those in a minute. I think it's, I want to get to some music. The guys are just like, I can see you're like getting a little antsy here, ready to, to do some music. So, we're going to talk more about that. But how about we get a song in here? So, what do you want to start with?
So we're going to start with Cold Hard Cash, which came out a week or so ago, which is a song I wrote about money. It was the first song that I wrote, actually.
Okay.
So, hope you like it.
I'm sure I will.
dog-eat dog, baby, I'll break your heart for some cold hard cash. You don't know what it means to me, baby, some cold hard cash. I'll turn 360 degrees for some cold hard cash. There ain't a language I wouldn't learn to talk for some cold hard cash. Boy, want a city 'cause it's gonna burn. We're shameless, we're primal, sincere and fake. What is a promise if you can't break it? You like to pretend that you're different from me. When the check comes to dinner, you have to pay. Cold hard cash, saving it up for a rainy day. Honey, some cold hard cash. Forget a boat, baby, I'll buy the bay. You'll need some cold hard cash to ensure your peace of mind. It's for the cold hard cash that I put up with the daily grind. There ain't nothing that I can't afford, thanks to that cold hard cash. I'm in a Phantom and you're in a Ford. On sugar, that cold hard cash. You know that they say that it's better than wood. Right on, it's cold hard cash. That keeps the light in my bedroom on. Oh, that light in my bedroom on.
Ooh. Tom Cridland with us here on Behind the Mic in our MusicTown studios. Nice stuff.
Thank you.
Nice stuff. Great band. How long have you guys all been together?
We've been gigging since September, but all of these guys played on my records.
Okay.
And you know, they helped turn. I mean, there were some great songs that they made even better songs, and there were, I must confess, a couple of turds that they helped, you know, resuscitate into life. You know, they've been great. I've known all of them for varying lengths of time. Robbie, I've been gigging with pretty much since I started doing any music
Okay.
on guitar. And there was another fellow who's back in England, and he might watch this, so hello, John Wright. And through him, I met this excellent keyboard player and backing vocalist, Jim. And Dino is from Brazil, moved to London. I think Dino thought that London would be like the swinging 60s. This is what I like to say to every single person who I introduce Dino to, so he must want to punch me in the face by now. But luckily he met someone as obsessed with the Beatles as him. Dino's got a tattoo of a Hofner bass,
Oh.
so he loves the Beatles. And Dino also I must give a special mention to, because basically I wrote all these songs in Mexico at the start of the year, where I was just with Deb sort of traveling and working.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came back with like the 100 songs, like, sort of saying, oh, I need to demo these with a guitar player and a keyboardist. And Dino basically had to sit through 100 demos, helping me work out like the parts before we brought them in the studio. And then finally, Paolo, who I only met at the start of this tour, he's from Brazil, like Dino, and came as a recommendation through Dino. And Paolo's been absolutely fantastic to gig with and tour with, such an easygoing guy. O melhor baterista.
Huh?
He's a fantastic drummer. My mum's actually Portuguese.
Oh,
So
okay.
luckily, having two Brazilian guys, I get a chance to practice Portuguese, because
Oh.
despite the fact my mum's Portuguese, and despite the fact I supposedly studied Portuguese at university, I'm still not fluent yet, which is a source of great embarrassment, I think, for the family.
Well, you got two guys to help you out here.
Yeah, yeah.
No more embarrassments. Yeah, great sound. You guys just sound really good together. And you mentioned the tour. So let's talk about the tour.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. you're doing this. You're going to every state, the 48 states. You are going to play in each one of these states.
Yeah, I think we're about a third of the way through now.
Okay.
This was not a sort of thing like, it wasn't like in January we had this all pre-planned. It's been very much, this tour idea started effectively in August, basically.
Okay.
Start of August, maybe.
Just this
and
past August?
Yeah.
And
then we arrived in America in September.
Okay.
So it has been winged to a certain extent.
Yes.
And one thing that I will say is that, you know, we're very lucky. You know, Deb's as a manager, and me as the artist. You know, just to have such easygoing guys to put up with the fact that we have been winging it. You know, like sometimes we don't even have a gig. And we book a gig like 2 days before because we want to complete this challenge of playing a gig in all 48 states.
Right.
You know, we're not signed to a promotion agency or a booking agency. I don't have like a huge team. We're just doing this. We're essentially cowboys, really. And it's better to admit that. And also, people might get the wrong impression, thinking that we're doing all this promo and there's some, you know, great corporate machine like powering all this. There's not. We're just a bunch of cowboys winging it.
So, you know, so first thing comes to my mind is like, well, what made you decide, oh, let's go to the U.S., let's go across the pond and go to every state and play? I mean, there had to be something that, you know, just kind of made that idea pop in your head.
I think perhaps the fact that I'm rather unhinged and I like to do all these like strange challenges all the time. Maybe it's all the time I have to fill now that I'm not drinking. I think I want to also, to be honest, a part of it is that I've written some songs that I'm really proud of. I'm releasing one single per week. And I'm just trying to think of ways in which to promote because it's a very crowded landscape out there. Yeah. And I mean, at the same time, like going to every state and sometimes playing to places that aren't really very full. Like you might say, well, you'd be better off staying in, staying in the UK and like working on your social media and stuff. And there's an element to that that's true, but I didn't really get into music. People that I idolized didn't make it through kind of becoming big on Instagram or big on social media or big on YouTube. I know there are plenty of amazing artists who did it that way.
Right.
But the music that I really grew up on and I love is like from the 60s and from the 70s. And it was before all that stuff. And I really like the idea of playing live. Mm-hmm. And if it's all gonna be in front of a laptop promoting on a computer in a room by myself, then, you know, I'd rather just go and work at something else because, the point of music is to interact with people face to face.
I like hearing that. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like maybe the artist has lost a little bit because they do that.
Well, I mean, it's very hard. The thing is like promoting yourself on a computer, making all your music on a computer in your bedroom is sometimes, it's pretty much a necessity in the sense that record labels aren't happy to fund people in the way that they used to.
Right.
Especially not sort of like artists who haven't proven themselves yet with statistics on streaming platforms and on social media. They're not going to get funded by a record label anymore to be given a band and go out on the road or to make a record with a band. Like that doesn't happen as much anymore because it's a different landscape.
Not like it used to be, but that's
and
for sure.
A lot of the music that does the best commercially is just made with a laptop and or just a couple of people, and that's not knocking that music.
Right.
It's not this music.
Yeah.
And some great music is made in the manner that I'm describing and promoted in the manner that I'm describing that I enjoy. Mm-hmm. But it's just it's not relevant to what I want to do. I mean, it is a bit sad to see the death of music from the 70s and 60s in the sense that young artists can't really do it in the same way. But at the same time, I think there are plenty of other opportunities. I wouldn't have been signed in the 70s. I'm nowhere near good enough. So at least in this landscape where technology allows you to do what you want, I can hustle and give myself the chance to grow and to hopefully eventually let my songs do the talking.
Mm-hmm. So maybe it was good that back then there wasn't, everyone taking videos and pictures, especially when you were on the floor. Say it that way.
The camera phones definitely wouldn't have been good.
Yeah, might not have been good for you back then anyway. So
and a lot of the stars now, a lot of the people who are in the limelight, you don't really hear about them going nuts too much. Most of them are vegan and have personal trainers and You know, they're and like all the concerts at the top level, a lot of them have to be run. The vocals just have to be run through tuners a lot of the time, because of the fact that everybody has a camera phone, so
Right.
people will just take a YouTube video
Right.
of like a slightly off note and upload it to Instagram with XYZ performing really out of tune on YouTube. So everything is very tightly controlled when you get to the top, and I completely see why that has to be the case.
And are you glad you're not at that position?
Well, I mean, it might be a little easier on the sanity to have a bit more,
okay.
to have some greater resources. But at the same time, you know, I'm
Yeah.
enjoying what I'm doing, and I think it's very important to enjoy the process. And sometimes this year I've been too much like, oh, I really want to move on to the next thing and the next stage. And
You're kind of antsy.
yeah,
You got to
I
go,
can
go.
be- yeah, I can be a bit
Is that
bad-tempered.
true, guys? Well, you know, and that could be a good thing as well. You know,
Yeah, it's good to be ambitious, but at the same time, like, you know,
Take a moment and breathe and
Yeah.
enjoy the museums, you know, and the different things and stuff like
the
that.
Motown Museum was a bit of a turning point, hopefully, I feel.
Oh, did you get some inspiration from there?
Yeah, also just reminded me, you know, I'm 29 and I'm in the US touring every state. You know, things aren't perfect, but they could be a lot worse. So, yeah, it made me just see, because it can get a bit tiring when you but it's all self-inflicted. And if I don't want to do this, I don't need to. So yeah, I'm really happy doing it.
You have put quite the, you know, it's an ambitious goal, you know, to do. And I'm just curious, you know, looking at a map, are you kind of following a specific, you know, like a cross up and down, or does, you know, just kind of going all over the place?
So I mean, the route's been pre-planned. We're
Oh, okay,
certain of that,
okay.
and you know, the gigs have been booked as we go along. Like there was a certain amount booked in advance, and then
Okay.
we just did it because it was the month before.
Yeah.
And that same month, I might add, I was recording all the vocals to the singles that have come out. It's not like sort of we were just mucking around and then part-time booking gigs. We were full-time doing something else.
Okay.
Yeah, we start in LA and go in a loop background. So we went up through Washington and Oregon, Dakota, both the Dakotas and Indiana. I mean, I'm missing so many out because my mind has
Well,
been
you're
full
not
up to the
from
brim,
here.
but
You don't know our map as well, probably.
Yeah, this
What's
is
that?
state number 18.
Oh, okay.
And it was, and then we're going back round. I can't wait to get to Nashville.
Oh.
I've been there before, but I just absolutely loved it. Memphis, New Mexico, Texas,
Yeah.
Vegas.
You know, Austin's a
LA.
big music town.
Austin's an amazing.
There's so many.
I mean, the thing is with America is that I'm not just saying this to be cheesy, because I've said plenty of stuff that proves that I'm certainly not very cheesy when it comes to chatting, unlike my music. But yeah, I mean, America has been like, everybody's been really friendly, no matter where we go. That has been, you know, that's undoubtedly been the case. And people, you know, you hear sometimes some negative things about America, but every single like bar or venue or pub, everywhere we've played gigs have been incredibly friendly to us.
Love
I
to
would
hear
say.
that.
And
Awesome.
every state very different, but yeah, that the one thing is that the attitude of the people has been really, really good.
Very cool. Thank you. Time for another song. On that note.
So very important, keeping all those people safe. He makes sure the important ones never have to wait. He'll regularly update you if the queue is really long. Always in the right, never in the wrong. Hey, Mr. Clipboard, won't you let me in? My friends are all inside the club and my mind's in tailspin. Hey, Mr. Clipboard, won't you make it right? I'll wait here in the cold for you all night. He liked the look of all my friends. charging me a tenner and let them all in free. Hey, Mr. Clipboard, won't you let me in? My friends are all inside the club and my mind's in tailspin. Hey, Mr. Clipboard, won't you make it right? I'll wait here in the cold for you all night.
Nice. And that's probably another song that you're releasing every
Yeah,
week
so
or
that's
one-
called Hey Mr. Clipboard, and that's coming out in 3 weeks. But I wanted
Okay.
to do it because, yeah, everybody's playing it so well live.
Okay, yeah.
I really enjoy
Good
that
stuff.
one.
Just crossed my mind. I'm thinking, you've got this hitting all 48 states, pretty ambitious. Is it kind of like a chance for you to catch up because you've lost so much time because of all the drinking? Is this kind of like a way to really?
Well, to travel, the thing is, because I've since university, I have sold sustainable fashion. That's what I did when I was effectively, when I had a drinking problem.
Mm-hmm.
I was always doing entrepreneurial things, so I've actually never lost out, particularly on the opportunity to travel. But obviously, yeah, I've made it even more intense travel.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, what's making up for lost time is music. Traveling, like I absolutely love traveling, but I always pursued that because you can travel and drink just fine. If anything, the traveling helps spice up the drinking, and also if you go off for a couple of months somewhere and continue getting plastered there, then people in England could think, oh, maybe he's doing all right, and then they could just think, like, oh, that's the thing. A lot of people didn't really realise the extent to which I had a drinking problem because if you see someone and you have a good night out with them and you get drunk and then you don't see them again for another month, for all you know, they could be fine.
That's
they could
true.
be doing
That's
yoga
true.
and meditating for
Yeah.
the rest of the month and just letting loose once a month. But it was just, I'm very organised, as you can see, with all these plans to record 100 songs and all this. So, I was quite regimented about, I'm going to see these people and get pissed with them on Monday. On Tuesday, it's going to be this group. Wednesday, it's going to be karaoke. I was quite orderly about my drinking problem. I scheduled in hangovers in my diary and,
Oh, wow.
I'm a very unhinged individual in many ways. So it really
That
didn't
says a
lend
lot
itself
there,
to my
Tom.
drinking problem.
Interesting. Let's go back to, because when you have such a problem like that, someone really helps you to get past that. And was Nigel a big part of that?
Well, Nigel Nigel Olsen, Elton's drummer, is the reason why I decided to take up music, just because on a musical level, I just think he's amazing. He doesn't read. He's been playing the drums for Elton for 50 years, and he's just the sweetest, nicest person. He's been incredibly kind to me and Debs. But I never. There's a line there in the sense that I would never bother Nigel with like, I'm sure he'd be very willing to help. He's an incredibly generous, kind person, but I'd never sort of like reached out to him and said, you know, Nigel, I've got a drinking problem. You know, I didn't really reach out to anyone apart from Debs.
Okay.
You know, effectively the final straw was after making a fool of myself at Debs's dad's birthday party. You know, it just suddenly dawned on me, did I make a fool of myself? And then, you know, I sort of like was in floods of tears all night. And the next morning I was like, I think I need to do something about this. But it wasn't like I'm going to give up forever. It was you know, it was like 1 week or 1 day at a time. Effectively,
That's
I
all
just
you can
stopped
do.
socialising for a bit. Because it's difficult if you're at the pub and people are like, come on, one pint won't hurt you. And that's
So
just annoying.
did you see did you notice something? I mean, all of a sudden, I mean, again, you, as you mentioned, you haven't been doing the music that long. So was there a point where you're like, I'm good at this, you know, but
I still don't think I'm very good.
Really?
I really struggle to sing on pitch all the time.
Okay.
I'm not a natural singer. I'm very good at songwriting, I think, because I'm good with words and because, you know, I really struggle with like anxiety and, you know, like, and restlessness, mainly restlessness, not anxiety so much.
Yeah.
And, you know, for whatever reason, my own insecurity, I feel like I've got a lot of things to say that I've got pent up, so I really enjoy songwriting. But musically, I've had no training.
That's what I was going to ask.
I should get some vocal coaching, but, you know, I'm too busy doing all these other things.
Yeah, you're touring the U.S. right now, hitting all the states.
And I've learned the drums. You know, my initial plan was to be a singing drummer and to be in a band that was going to be like the Eagles, with everybody singing note-perfect 6-part harmonies. But it turns out that sort of thing is quite difficult to pull off. But I've learned drums to a sort of relatively acceptable low level. And I play other instruments in my spare time. You know, this year I've taken up guitar, bass, piano, but you know, I'm probably best at like bass and guitar. I'm pretty crap at piano. But I mean, I'm not at any level to compete with these, you know, professional guys. You know,
when you
It's
can't
my
do it, you hire
songwriting,
someone
I think,
else to
is the
do
best
it. You
thing.
know,
Well, exactly.
You know, kind of thing. So if you didn't have training in that, were your parents musicians or, you know, someone that you grew up? No.
My dad runs a business called Lumi, which does light therapy products. They do this alarm clock that wakes you up in the morning with a natural sunrise. It's been imitated here in the US by Philips, I believe.
Okay.
But
your dad is the one who's.
he didn't invent it; he just bought it. Both my parents met in the very glamorous world of accountancy in an accountancy training camp. And there was a stage at university when I was essentially just a reprobate doing nothing, where my mum wanted to convince me to become an accountant, but I was very resistant to that, and it caused a little family squabble. And I think my dad summed it up best when he said to my mother, look, I think even if you'd had Leonardo da Vinci as a son, you'd have tried to force him to become an accountant too. I think that's very apt. But that said, my parents are both incredibly supportive, and you know, they spent a lot of money on giving me a very privileged education. So, yeah, I'm completely blessed with a very supportive family.
Do you actually have a degree in something?
Yeah, I actually got, I like to say this in interviews because I think my mum will be happier. I actually got a 2-1, which is a good grade, in modern languages, Portuguese and French. I can't speak any French. I can't speak any Portuguese that well. I speak okay Portuguese. So I say the 2-1 to keep my mum happy, to sort of outline the truth of the matter. I mean, it's pretty disgraceful that I could get a 2-1. I literally did no work. I hardly attended lectures.
How did that happen?
Well, the exams are very easy.
Oh.
So essentially like a few weeks of crammed revision at the end of a 4-year course was all it needed. So sorry, University of Bristol, but you're going to have to try harder if you want to make a course that's actually worthwhile. Because the only thing I studied was pouring Jägermeister down my gullet.
Yeah,
really.
one of your favorites, Jägermeister.
Yeah.
That stuff's pretty nasty, pretty strong.
Well, it's got medicinal qualities, I hear. From it used to be a German medicinal liqueur, I think.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's pretty filthy, I have to say. I do agree with you. Horrible.
Hunting master, apparently.
Oh,
It means hunting master.
okay. Unreal. Okay. And when you say that, also, I think about. There were so many times, at least from what I was reading all over your, the different social media and your website, it's like there could have been so many times that you could have died. Let's just put it out there.
Yeah.
And that yet you just, I mean, there was some being that said, no, this guy does not need to be dead at this point. I mean, does that ever cross your mind? You know that.
Not that often, other than when I wrote those posts
Okay.
and wrote those things to help market my first single, which again feels a bit jarring to use that stuff, which is deeply personal. But then the songs are deeply personal, and the whole reason why I want to do it is because it feels honest and personal to
Right.
write songs.
Right.
And there's such a huge element of ridiculousness to this whole thing that it can't get any more ridiculous. So you might as well just do whatever at this point. I think, yeah, I'm very lucky. And there are probably other things that I didn't mention. I mean, I remember things like rolling out of bed drunk and sort of like hitting my eye on some glass.
Oh, jeez.
And just other things like that. Like a lot of like scrapes to the face, I think. Yeah, like it wasn't very healthy at all. And what's worrying is, other than Debs, you can get by having like a big problem like that, and no one really cares or notices. Because everybody's so
that's
busy
kinda
with
sad.
their own stuff. Like you've got to take responsibility for yourself
Yeah.
in life, I think. And like I just wasn't doing that. I was just like leading this life of getting like really, really like dangerously drunk all the time and getting
Well,
into scrapes and struggles.
Somebody out there is like, this guy can't end it now. There's something bigger still coming.
There's-
You know.
Yeah, there's a ridiculous music career to embark on.
Why do you keep saying ridiculous?
I just, I just, part of me still feels like I haven't earned the right to do this, because I feel I feel a bit intimidated by how good everybody is at music when I've had no training. So I guess that will lessen. I used to be way worse than this, so it's lucky that it's 2 years on. At the start, every single moment that you caught me doing anything musical, I was like, I've only just started, by the way. That was literally all I did. So I've calmed down a little bit.
That's pretty. That's also another when someone says, I really am bad, and you're admitting you're bad. I mean, I don't know what you sounded like back then, but you kept going.
Yeah.
It's like you have this drive that it's going to get better. I know it's going to get better. I can do better. I'm going to, I mean, you still didn't get any training or anything like that, but I mean, it's working for you right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the songs sound great, so
Yeah.
I'm just going to keep cracking on. I mean, I know what I like, and I like my songs. That's
Well, you've
one
had
thing.
you've had a lot of exposure. I mean, all the different music that you listen to and everything, and I'm sure all that is in the back of your head and helping you now when you're
Yeah, for
writing and
sure.
singing and stuff. So
Of course.
it all comes around and helps out. So, going to jump to the Pam exam.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I've had my eye on this.
I'm just going to pull out random questions. Just top of your head, whatever comes to mind. And these are things you don't really see in a lot of interviews, so you're going to hear stuff that you've probably never been
excellent.
asked before, which is my favorite part. If you could be on the cover of a magazine, which one?
Playboy.
Okay.
Yeah. Or if not, Playgirl. Does that exist? Probably. So, yeah,
Okay.
Playboy or, yeah. I mean, if FHM is still in circulation, I wouldn't mind that.
FHM, I don't know what.
The Him magazine, do you remember that? Maybe they don't have it in the US. It's an English thing. Or
Okay.
Zoo or Nuts or anything tasteful like that.
Okay. Your most memorable music moment?
My most memorable music moment has got to have been seeing Elton John live and meeting Nigel for the first time. No, going for dinner with Nigel for the first time. So I was a big Elton John fan. Went to many concerts with Debs. Debs was very tolerant because we went to quite a few. And I always used to say, Nigel Olsen is such a cool drummer. Like, he's like the Ringo of the Elton band. I would love to like hang out with him. He seems like such a nice guy. Then a few years later, we got the chance just to meet him before a concert, and already that was amazing. And then after being mates for sort of, acquaintances for a year or so, then we went to a concert where Elton, it was in Paris, just in a 1,000-seater theatre, the Olympia Theatre. And before the show, Nigel was like, so I was just wondering, if you and Debs want to after the show to come back with me and my wife and just have some dinner at the hotel after. And I was just like, oh yeah, that'd be all right. And in my mind, I was obviously like, yes.
Yeah, as soon as he turns the corner, you're like, yes, 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 yes.
Yeah. So that was great.
Cool.
You know, because that is genuinely for me like meeting and hanging out with my complete idol.
Yeah.
So and they say don't meet your idols and stuff. And I know Nigel's not like a hugely famous, but you know, people have their idols.
Right.
And he's very celebrated as a great rock drummer, and he should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I mean, all of Elton's band should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I might add, not just Elton.
Yeah.
But yeah, they say don't meet your idols because they're not going to be nice, but he is a very nice guy.
Okay. Good to know. Never met the man, so but I'm sure. How about your favorite non-music pastime?
Well, considering the fact I've had every avenue of pleasure closed off, from smoking to drinking to coffee, I mean, there's one obvious one, spicy hot chicken. That's probably my favourite pastime, sampling delicious spicy hot chicken. There's a restaurant in England called Nando's, which I quite like going to. And here I'm looking forward to going to Prince's Hot Chicken Shack, which is in Nashville. I've been before.
Okay.
It was the best fried chicken I've ever had. But actually, other than that, I quite enjoy... I mean, I don't really know what else I enjoy apart from music. I quite enjoy Netflix from time to time, but at the moment we're working so hard that I usually fall asleep about 5 minutes in.
Do you have any other do you have hobbies of some sort, or right
Fashion,
now it's
collecting
music?
sunglasses, I enjoy that.
Sunglasses? Okay.
I like travelling. I like slagging off politicians. I like comedy. I'm a big fan of extras in The Office, which, as you can see, will have influenced me quite a lot. And Curb Your Enthusiasm, I like that as well.
Okay.
Yeah, travel, politics, art. Yeah, I mean, I'm quite enthusiastic in general about life.
Yeah.
So it would be difficult to. I mean, food in general as well, and veganism. I've been converted into an increasing interest in veganism from Debs,
Okay.
and I work out every morning for an hour. I exercise every morning for an hour.
Sounds like Debs is quite the.
You'd think she was an absolute dragon from the way I talk about her, but she's actually the most understated person. You know, never takes credit for anything.
Well, and she's stuck by you.
Yeah, very
through thick and
tolerant.
thin. Yeah. So
Yeah, I'm very lucky.
great person to have for you.
Yeah.
She's laughing.
Yeah, she's right outside.
I think she's
watching.
actually just working, looking at her laptop.
Is there a quote you live your life by or think of often?
Actually, this is good timing because Elton John's autobiography has just come out. And there's a quote on the back, which I already knew, but it wouldn't have been at the top of my mind. But I think this really sums up my ethos. He said, "The great thing about rock and roll is that someone like me can be a star." And I think that really sums up like what I feel about music. It's a great outlet for channeling whatever, you know, whether you've got happiness or frustration or whatever emotions. If you're not very good at expressing yourself in other forms, music can be a wonderful way of doing that, especially writing songs and also performing and you know, the way you dress or whatever. It's just rock and roll as a whole thing is a really great way of expressing yourself, and I think that was a very good way of summing it up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good one. If you had access to a time machine, where and when would you go?
I would go back to 1963 or 62 when George Martin decided that Pete Best was going to be sacked as drummer of the Beatles, and they were looking around for a replacement. And I would have, you know, tried to worm my way in there. Pete Best must be
And what would you?
beside himself.
I'm
with
just curious.
rage.
What would you have told George at this point if you wormed your way in there?
I've just said, George, you know, I'm exactly the type of guy that you need in here. I'll let the other three get on with it. I mean, I don't know what Ringo said. I think Ringo was actually a pretty celebrated drummer, so in actual fact, I don't fancy my chances. But that would have been a good place to be. Ringo's position then. Pete Best is there, plays with the Beatles 700 shows in Hamburg, when the Beatles were a band that no one had really heard of.
Right.
And then just before they make it big, Pete Best's gone, Ringo comes in. I mean, at the same time, Ringo is an equal, you know, it's 25% to all of them. Beatles are equal parts. Ringo's drum. A lot of people slag off Ringo, but a lot of people say what I'm about to say, which is that he was crucial to the whole thing. Just his ear and his tastefulness as a player. And also, he's a great guy and a great example to people as well. He's another person who got clean and sober. And I think I saw an article where he was walking around with his son in Beverly Hills, and people were saying that Ringo looked, at age 70-something, looked younger than his son, Zach, who plays drums for The Who.
Really?
But they both look pretty cool to me, and they both are pretty cool.
Oh. Have you met Ringo then, or no?
No, I would like to, though.
Okay.
I'm sure we'd have a great laugh together.
I'm sure you would. Fill in the blank. I wish I could
afford the Gucci jacket that I wore in my latest music video, which has a sequined snake embroidered onto the back
I saw
of
that,
it.
yeah. So that wasn't yours? That was borrowed?
No, the latest music video, Cold Hard Cash, that we filmed was filmed with a production budget of 0 and 0 minutes planning time, but I actually think it turned out quite well. It was quite funny. We had things like Rolls Royces in there and, filming inside Gucci and things like that, but none of it was sort of pre-planned. We just did it off the cuff, and that's the music videos have been quite winged so far, much like everything else.
How much does that jacket cost?
It was $8,000, I think.
Ooh.
So I'm not going to be buying it anytime soon, sadly.
Yeeks.
Unless we take a different course maybe next year. Debs' dad could remortgage his house or something, and then we could...
If you could have any one person in your band, and they could be dead or alive at this point, who would that be in your band or collaborate with?
Well, I would not want to replace anyone in the band. So,
True.
But we could have
to
two
this
drummers,
band.
a bit like Ringo's band, and we could get either Ringo or Nigel in,
There you go.
or we could have two keyboardists and get Elton in. I mean, there are other big idols would be like James Hetfield. I really like, but I'm not sure he'd fit in too much with our sound. Same with Trent Reznor. That's another person I respect. Eminem. I don't think he would really enjoy our music or anything about us. Yeah, I mean, there are so many to name. I'm happy doing what I'm doing. I think I think the one thing is that we've got a great band here. Everybody plays great.
Yeah.
And I think the songs are there. So, I think that the songs will stand up ultimately. So I wouldn't need anybody else. I'm happy just being their fan. And doing my own thing musically.
Okay. Well, sometimes people are like, yeah, I would love to just sing a song with so-and-so or whatever, but...
Oh, the list would be too long to name, really. Venga Boys,
The
Village
what?
People.
The what boys?
The Venga Boys, have you not heard of... You should get them in on the show. They've got a good...
Not
a
familiar.
very nice repertoire. Very interesting. My brother's a great fan. He's got a pretty diabolical taste in music,
Okay.
I must say. No offense.
How many siblings do you have?
I've got one brother. He actually has a very good taste in music. He listens to my songs and sends me very nice messages about them. I don't want to be rude about him. Me and my brother get on very well. We would be like the Gallagher brothers if James had any musical talent, but sadly, he works in another industry.
Okay. Accounting?
Yes.
Okay.
It's not a joke, but he's like, the thing is, James is a person who has a good time in the evening with his friends and then gets up at 6 to work every day of the week, and he gets on with everybody. He's got far better people skills than me, so he's good to have.
Hey.
And obviously being away from him for 3 months is it's tough. It would be good if he came out here, but he's studying for his exams.
Oh.
Although it is quite good that he's not coming out here, because I think he would perhaps rile up the troops into more drinking than is advisable on a tour of this nature.
All right. How about another song, guys?
Yeah. I still believe I can do it.
You might not think that I doubt myself, that I struggle a lot with my mental health. You might believe I'm a fortunate son. You're writing me off before I have begun. Without you I wouldn't survive. myself. Your kindness can never get old. No problem too big, no dream too bold. Without you, I don't know that I would still believe in myself. Without you, that send me tumbling down. Thanks to you, I still believe I can do it. Life hasn't beaten me yet. I still believe I can do it, even though you placed your bet. Without you, I don't know that I still believe in myself. Without you, that send me tumbling down. Thanks to you, I can say that oh, I can say that I can do it. Life hasn't beaten me yet. I still believe I can do it, even though you placed your bet. Oh, I still believe I can do it. Oh, life hasn't beaten me yet. I still believe I can do it, even though you placed your bet.
Ooh. Very nice. Very nice.
Thank you.
Well, this has been fun. I want
Yeah, it's been very fun, Pam. Thank you for having us.
absolutely. I just
Having me.
want to make sure everyone knows. One other thing that you mentioned, you want to be the biggest pop star. That's
Well,
your mission. Is that still?
yeah,
Is
I
that
want.
what you're?
So I want to be the biggest pop star in the world, which is an aim that I will clarify.
Okay.
I want to write the best pop songs in the world and release them one every week.
Yes.
And that's what I've started doing and will continue doing indefinitely. And, you know, I think aiming to be the biggest pop star in the world is something that I'm doing to try and enjoy the process.
Okay.
So if I don't succeed, I will still have enjoyed trying, and I'm just trying to aim for the top. You know, I just think if you do something well and you do it consistently, it will pay dividends. And I think the two things that I very firmly believe in are that I write very well, and I can write things very quickly. And two, I work very hard. So I'm going to keep writing well and working hard, and we'll see where that gets me.
Do you ever get to a point it's like, oh my gosh, I got to have another song ready before the end of the week? I mean, are you at that point, or do you have enough
Well,
in
there are
the bag?
things, loose ends to tie up, like mastering and stuff. But I mean, we've already recorded over 100.
Okay.
We've recorded 130.
Wow. Yeah, that's
So there's
that's
already
amazing.
enough to last a while. It's more a case of just trying to get this stuff released and keeping me calm and not trying to do anything else is very, very important. Because I really like writing. It was really stupid to write and then demo and then record. I mean, it was great because the songs sound great. But at the same time, it means now that I can't write. I can't really write and record and start a new project for a while. Yeah, I've got quite a big appetite for writing and recording. Yeah, I feel like I'm making up for lost time, really.
That's what I was saying earlier. I think because
Musically.
musically is what I
For
meant.
sure.
You know, you just
Well, yeah, you hit the nail on the head, really.
kind of trying to catch up because you have
Yeah.
lost some time.
Yeah, it's absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that really sums up everything.
Yeah.
But you know, it's never too late, and I'm really glad that I'm doing what I'm doing now.
Good for you. Yeah, you're definitely on a mission, and you're definitely on the right path, even though it's going all over the country, you know, to
thank you,
to
man.
achieve some of these goals. But you and go to his website. There's so much fun stuff there, and your podcasts are there. You do a podcast.
Yeah, I do a podcast every week. At the moment, it's just me sort of explaining a bit about the backstory. But you know,
Okay.
often what I say is really dependent on my mood at the time.
Okay.
I would guess, and I did probably my favourite episode was with Robbie.
In a very rowdy bar.
Yeah, we had to edit some of because there was quite some boisterous activity going on in the background, which we had to edit out.
Okay.
But that was great, and so yeah, and then these are like an introduction, and hopefully I can be a bit more, pinpoint the things that I want to say a bit more. Because at the moment it's just been sort of banter. And
Nothing
I
wrong
need
with
to
that.
explain a bit.
Yeah.
I like a bit
Yeah.
of,
Banter's
a bit
good.
of aimless banter as much as the next guy.
Well, check it out, though. It's some good stuff.
But then soon there will be some guests as well.
Okay.
I've interviewed a number of my heroes. I can't name names at this stage, but these are A-list musicians.
Wait a minute. I thought I saw a list of something, wasn't it? I thought you're.
Probably
podcast?
somebody might have released it, but I shouldn't go around saying it yet. 'Cause it's meant to be a bit of a surprise.
Okay.
So, but keep your eye on the podcast because soon we're going to have guests, and those interviews, they're more coherent because I'm just there. I'm extremely knowledgeable about all these different artists. So they're really good interviews. And some of these guys have not been interviewed like this before, so it's going to be really great for music
Looking forward to watching those. Fun stuff. Well, fantastic. Thank you for coming in and making Detroit one of your stops in the 48 states.
Oh, thank you, Pam. We've had a really nice time today. It's been
good.
really fun.
Absolutely. Your website is just tomcridland.com, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Go there. There's all kinds of stuff and, fun stuff and background story, which is...
Yeah, and check out the tunes. They're
crazy.
on Spotify
Yeah.
and all the rest of it, Apple Music.
Yeah, you're all over the social media, so you can find him anywhere.
Exactly.
If you need to, so.
A dive bar near you. And, as Robbie said, you can't escape.
All right, what's the next state you're going to?
Ohio.
Okay, going south. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, again, thanks. And you guys all sounded great. Thanks for coming in and entertaining us today. Do appreciate that. And thanks to all of you out there watching. We do appreciate that as well for another edition of Behind the Mic in our beautiful MusicTown studios here on the second floor of Hockeytown, downtown Detroit. I'm Pam Rossi. Have a great week.